I'm talking to lots of people about the metaverse every day and how we're positioned in it and how other projects are positioned in it. I'm just really interested to hear, from somebody at your level, what you feel, how it will develop over, a short term, maybe the next couple of years. Obviously 2 years in this space is like 10 years, but what's your thoughts on how you're positioned compared to other metaverses or the metaverse as a whole?
Yeah, it's a huge topic. We could talk about this for hours, but I'll try and summarize it short for what we're trying to do here. But the key differentiator between what we're seeing as people that are pretending to be a metaverse versus companies that are actually trying to deliver a metaverse, I think, is around some of the concepts of which platforms are they on? What are those platforms trying to achieve? How does that add value as opposed to something else? How do you differentiate yourself from a multiplayer game versus a Zoom call versus all of these other features and functionalities that people are claiming are metaverses and aren't? The term metaverse has been overused and abused in the last few, I guess, months, years, because people don't quite understand what it is yet. And that is going to change over the next months and years. We're going to see people actually latch on to an understanding of what the metaverse is, why the metaverse exists, what the purpose of the metaverse is, and how they sit within it. We're very much at that early stage, just like with the internet back in the early days, where people didn't understand it was going to be successful. There were articles about it failing, all of that nonsense. That is so last year. The future is here. And when it comes to what you're trying to do, which is ultimately create your own metaverse and pass to your experience, your world, and that's what we're here to help people achieve. And that's, I think, one of the big differentiators between, for example, a company like us and Facebook. Traditionally, Facebook have tried to own everything, whether it's your data, whether it's the images that you upload, all of these things. We have to curate the content, so we can't just let it be a free-for-all because of the platforms that we're on. But our goal isn't to own the content or own your space. Your space is your space. It's like a website. You own it. It's yours. We just create the tools and the software that enable you to have your hosted environment with a browser that can browse it and the content that you've put in it that allow it to exist. And those three things are what the internet's built up around. Servers that host the content, browsers that let you access the content, and then the content that users like yourselves create, or businesses like yourselves create. Our job here is to give other people access to that, open it up to them. And in that process, we have to obviously create content, curate content, and showcase that content so that people get an idea, incept the idea of what the metaverse really is. I think that we're going to see a lot of people pick up on that over the coming years. What you guys are doing is obviously at the very forefront of it. You've taken over an area that hasn't been done properly in virtual reality or in the metaverse, and you're now making that happen. That's fantastic. So working with partners like yourselves, I think we as a group are going to be able to show ourselves to be the web 3.0, the internet of the future, the metaverse of what is going to be coming. And I think that's very powerful. And also something people need to understand is that we're here to work with people like yourselves. We're not here to take control of it. We imagine that we've created something very, very cool, but we don't necessarily think we'll be the biggest fish in that pond. Just because we made it doesn't mean we will own it. And we expect to see companies, whether it's in joke community or whether it's a comedy, or whether it's something like Amazon, we'll see other companies start and exist and land in the metaverse, and they will become huge multinational corporations. Go back to the beginning of the internet, and was it Walmart that succeeded? No, it was some sort of upstart called Amazon that nobody knew about. And I think that concept, people are often going around saying, "Oh, Sam, when are the big companies going to come into the metaverse?" And I'm like, they're already here. They're just not big yet.
Cool, I like that. Yeah.
And that, I think, is really the concept that people have to latch on to. We're not looking for Walmart. We're not looking for Amazon. I mean, obviously that would be great, but that's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is the people that get what Amazon and Walmart don't get, which is the future. We want those companies to come aboard, and that's people like you.
Yeah, I had an interview with Rich Sheffrin, and he was talking to me and saying, look, I'm going to be massively skeptical because I've seen it all before. And I went, well, you haven't seen it like this before, because he said, I saw Second Life and I saw people coming in and buying storefronts in there. And I said, look, the tech the tech wasn't there. So it's, you know, that's where I think people need to realize this time it's going to happen.
Yeah, no, this time it is, and it's very different. It's a very different world. I mean, we've seen, what is it, over 1,000 people buy storefronts in Finiverse. Yeah, they're already there. They're making money
and doing business. Yeah, making loads of money.
Yeah, and the fact that that exists and people haven't latched onto it is brilliant, because it means we can continue, you know, drifting under the radar a little bit while we continue to get out of beta or pre-beta, and we get into like really being ready to land. And I think that again, you know, huge respect for all the people like yourselves that have come aboard now, and all the people that have bought apartments. You know, huge number of people that have bought apartments across the Infiniverse, and that's fantastic. But it's still just a drop in the future ocean. And that concept is something that a lot of people have a difficult time understanding. When you deal with NFTs a lot of people are thinking maybe 10,000 NFTs is what a big, powerful drop is. Now, 1,000, yeah, we think those numbers are tiny.
Try hundreds of thousands or millions is
millions. Yeah, hundreds of millions. I mean, that's the sort of number that we're going to be dealing with in the future. And the scale of that is difficult for humans to comprehend. I walk into Multiverse and Infiniverse at the moment. I look up and I see the skyscrapers that have been built by people, and the money that's poured in for that. It's like, oh my God, wow. And then I think, wait a minute, this is nothing.
Just very start. Yeah.
This is just the beginning, because I can actually count all the faces. It'd take me a while, but if I stand in the middle of Grand Central and I walk around, I can count the number of things. In the future, I will not be able to count them. I will not be able to get to that high number in my brain. And that concept is something that humans have a difficult time doing, because we're in a room of like 12 people. Oh, there's a lot of people. It's so cool. There could be, you know, hundreds of thousands of people in that room, but just in different shards. There could be, you know, millions and millions of apartments in the Infiniverse, hundreds of millions. And that sort of number is something that's difficult to comprehend. That's where the future is. And that's what everybody around us needs to start to grasp and get their heads around. And they will, and it's coming. Cool.
Do you see it as, you know, obviously we look at films like Ready Player One and an expansive metaverse where everybody, well, or nobody goes out from their actual house. Do you actually envisage a scenario like that, or is it going to be more like like metaverse / augmented reality? Or I'd love to hear what you think, how it ends up. And I know that's such a difficult question, but
it's not that difficult. Again, I mean, if the biggest thing you've got to do when you're in tech is you've got to look at trends. You've got to look at trend lines. You've got to look at curves. You've got to look at the past and see how the past reflects on the future. And if you went back and you looked at the internet and you looked at how that built up, it wasn't as fast as we all think it was. When I was there, I was a kid when it was happening. I had one of these silly old modems that I had to connect to, and it sounded like a screeching, I don't know.
Oh yeah. No, we were there. The ZX Spectrum games. You're not quite that old, I don't think.
I started writing the first game on ZX Spectrum, ZX81. 7 years old, and I was typing out my games in ZX81. But yeah, you go back to the beginning and you look at where we were then, and you look at how it's happened. I mean, I'm nearly 50 now, 47 or something like that. It's 40 years since I started coding on my ZX81, and now we're at a place where I wanted to be when I was 7 years old. Now, it's not going to take that long by a long shot, because the exponential curve of technology is going to change that. We're going to see that within the next few years, 5 years. But the future is one where it's integrated. I mean, I'm right now not in Multiverse with you, because this type of experience is better done in the real world.
Yeah,
which is awesome. I love it. It's a fantastic place, and that's cool. But there are other things that are better done in Multiverse. There are things that I wouldn't choose to do on a Zoom call or something like that. There are things I want to do in the real world. Go have a beer in a pub. There are things I want to do on a digital 2D flat screen like right now, and then there's things I want to do in Multiverse and Infiniverse and Metaverse and 3D. And I think grasping that is important. The other thing that everybody talks about is the metaverse, as if there is only going to be one. I would love it for us to be the metaverse, but I don't believe that's a reality. We can already see there's a million different companies trying to vie for this. They're going to be there along with us, and that's just like apps. And there isn't one Zoom app. There's, you know, Skype.
Yeah, it's like you saying you want to be the only internet. You know, it doesn't.
I mean, yeah, that would be awesome, but no, that's not what everybody wants. That isn't the democracy that we're all looking for. That isn't the Web 3.0 principles that we all aspire to. I think it's important to get our heads around that and say, no, there are going to be multiple different solutions. We do a better job at certain things than anybody else, and we are brilliant at that. Horizon Worlds, I don't like it, but it does do a little bit of a better job at creation of content 3D than we do. So they're better at that than we are. And they can be a place for certain people to go. Sandbox, another place, that has a certain value. It's on 2D and I don't like it again. I don't think it's the right way to go forward. I see it more of a money grab than a long-term business. But it's still cool, undeniably cool. I think that what we've got to get to is a place where all of that combines into a world where some companies do better at some things, other companies do better at others. We're in a situation where some of us have iPhones, some of us have Android. Doesn't mean mobile phones are one company. It means that there's different companies doing that. I think it's going to be the same with this. Different browsers. You got Chrome and
other alternatives are available.
Yeah, exactly. And there's other alternatives. And I think it's the same here. We're actually building three businesses. We're building the browser, we're building the server hosting, and we're building the content. And those are three different businesses in the internet. Nobody owns all three of those on the internet and does all of it. And we would be daft to think that that's what we're going to do. The future is one where we work with other people to achieve these goals. We work with other companies like yourselves. You content than anybody else I know, the metaverse. Why would we try to compete? It's just stupid. I'd rather support you and walk with you, and a flock of birds in a direction is what we are, and we need to be that, not some Tyrannosaurus trying to trample over everything. And I think that concept is what is so powerful about Web 3.0 and what it is that everybody loves about it, and why we're all looking for this, because that is what has been lost from the internet.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I love that.
Has been lost.
Yeah, and there's still, like you said earlier, the money grab principle on a lot of these projects that are coming out now, because obviously we're close to a lot of what's happening with the tokenization and crypto, and it is all like, it's like the meme storm of all the meme coins coming out like last year, and now this is the metaverse coin era almost, and it is money.
And unless you got Elon Musk backing you up and telling you that your coin is going to be big.
Oh. Don't start me on Uncle Elon.
Anyway, we'll tweet about that, won't we?
Yeah, Simon Young of Joke Community says Elon Musk is a criminal. Well, let's get that one out there, because I have been heard to say that before. Just the manipulation of the crypto market.
He's amazingly clever, but oh my god, he knows where the line of the law is, and I'm sure his lawyers are calling him up regularly, screaming at him and saying, "No, you just start to step over."
In this unregulated space.
That's it. But then again, if you imagine back at the beginning of the internet, Amazon was doing that. Amazon was getting away without VAT, but charging people VAT because they were transferring goods globally. That's how Amazon succeeded. They succeeded by being a little bit criminal. And I mean, you got to admit it, I'm not looking to do that, and that's not where we're at. But there are, big stories of that type of nature out there. And you got to, again, look at the internet, look at what happened, look at how it went, look at it from a big scale point of view, not a teenager, the last 5 years of the internet, not just TikTok, but look at, from back in the 90s to where we are now. That is a big era of time, and there's been a lot of changes, and it's a big different world now than it was then. Look at Amazon back when it launched. I do that often. I go back and look at the launch of Amazon webpage, and I just look at how utterly rubbish that website was, and I realize we're already better than that by comparison. If we think about the beginning of the metaverse, what we're achieving, your metaverse of comedy is already cooler than the first iteration of anything similar to Netflix.
In summary, the metaverse, I'm right in thinking that the metaverse is all of these spaces tied together, and people choose where they go within that.
And that's one of the big differences between us and all of the other companies out there. We use the deep linking technology to allow you to open up any other app, go to any web page. We don't want you to stay in us. We want our metaverse to be the default metaverse you come to. And then maybe you go off to others and you do other things, but you come to us and then you go and find what you want. And that might be inside our multiverse, or it might be outside. We don't care. That's not, we're not precious. We're not trying to own it. And again, that's a really big difference between us and other people.
What are people like Google doing? Presumably they're, and I don't know the answer to the question, you must know.
I can tell you what we can see that they're doing, which is very little. The last conference I went to at Oculus, I'm not going to name any names because that's not cool, but I was talking to people who were utterly blown away by the lack of focus in this area because they had pushed with their Google Cardboard, which I think, to be honest, was a big fuck you to Facebook for buying Oculus for $2 billion, because they said basically, well, you just spent $2 billion on a goggle. We can make them for cents. Here's the Google Cardboard. But in fact, that hurt the whole VR ecosystem. It was the wrong decision, and it was going to the lowest common denominator in the way that Google sometimes does, where the Android phones that are out there, some of them you just don't want to touch. Whereas an iPhone, it might be expensive. You might be irritated by some of the design choices they make and the focus on the poop emoji during some of the keynotes. But that is a better device. It is a more slick device. I personally have Android, but I've got a good Android. I don't know the shitty ones. The iPhone is slicker, and what Google did with the Google Cardboard was clever, but actually I think backfired. And a lot of people that want to come to VR say things like, well, yeah, I was in VR years ago and it gave me a headache and I couldn't focus. Yeah, because it was cardboard. Try and go to the correct now.
It's like putting a Kellogg's box on your head.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, I don't know, getting into a horse-drawn cart and then saying, yeah, no, I don't want a Ferrari. Because I've been on wheels and they suck, and that's where we're at the moment. Now, Facebook has loads of issues. We acknowledge that Facebook has issues, and as a company in a small way competing with them, it's interesting because I respect them massively. What they've achieved with creation of the Quest 2 device is unbelievable. What they've done from a point of view of paying for and creating a lot of the content that's out there, unbelievable. Hats off to Zuckerberg for all of the commitment that he's had in an industry where everybody thinks short term, but he's actually been able to think long term, which is what we're doing, thinking long term, because we can see the bigger picture here. And I think that amazing. Guy really has achieved, and what we've got today, the opportunity for the metaverse. Again, we've been doing this for 5 years, but it wasn't until Zuckerberg got up on stage and changed his company name to Meta that the shit hit the fan. And again, huge respect to them and him for what they've achieved, but they do seem to have that tendency of trying to own it.
Keep it. They want to wrap it up and make it theirs. Yeah, which. Well, let's put it this way, Sam. I genuinely hope that in 5 years' time, I'm sat here able to replay this interview and say that, look, Sam built the Google of the metaverse, and there you go.
But if you think about it, like even the conversations around the NFT stuff that they've talked about, the fact that they're going to be taking 47%. I mean, come on.
How can you do that? People, I announced that in one of our AMAs, and I said, well, I don't see how we can ever really put a platform inside Horizon Worlds when, do I want to give away 47%? And there's obviously other costs involved as well, not just that.
So basically, they're saying that, where NFTs and cryptocurrency is democratized, we're going to remove that democracy. We're just going to take half of the money. And it's like, not even, I live in France, which is a very taxed country, but even the French government doesn't get away with that.
I would have thought they would have taken the sort of Amazon approach of a standard 18% is where it sits. That's where it's painful for a business owner, but it's livable, right? But 47 is like
no. I mean, obviously all he's trying to do is get the people that don't understand what they're doing to create some NFTs and them to do it. And it's, I don't quite understand the big business logic behind that, but it's something we've seen again and again with Facebook, where they come out and they say something and it's great, but then what they actually do when it comes down to the money side of things is completely different. They promised to support Rift for years. It's gone. They promised to, it's so many promises that they've made along those lines across the years. again, they've done fantastic things, and the majority of the people that I've worked with at Facebook and Oculus are amazing people. But some of the decisions that have been made at the corporate level, high up, are just a little bit mind-blowing. And
the space needs to develop. You know,
Yeah.
the people that are in it, they're the
Yeah.
ones that decide what direction it goes in.
Yeah. And if you think about it, banks, you know, what does a bank take? You know, we hate banks, but actually they take less than nearly all the cryptocurrency transactions and Facebook, you know, by a long shot. You know, if Wise or HSBC decided to take 47.5%.
Oh yeah, but you've got to remember what they do on the other side is a bit where
they do other things. Yeah, yeah. They support a Putin or whatever it is. But let's not get into that.
No.
But yeah, I mean, there is some stuff there that's happening that we need to keep an eye on. I think that it's great because it also, as soon as some company comes out and thinks they're big enough to be able to say that we're going to take 47.5%, it's a fantastic opportunity for a company like us. We can come in and we can give a real percent, you know, a small percent, a tiny percent, and we can still become, massive in the industry. And everybody will come to us because, well, why would...
Well, you guys have got the footfall already anyway, haven't you? So you, like, compared to, well, some of the ones that might be classed as money grabs, or did you see Clay Nation come out as well?
No, what was that? I didn't see that one.
So Snoop Dogg's done one. Oh yes, his own one called Baked. Well, it's Baked Nation, Clay Nation, Underworld.
Yes, Underworld. Yeah.
But like one of the projects we're working on at the moment is to go and secure land in other metaverses, but obviously the doors to those will come through the Infiniverse. Yeah,
I mean, but that's it. That's why we're doing it that way. Why would you want to, I mean, have a central place like Google? Ultimately, we see it as Google in the sense that you've got to go somewhere to work out where you're going to go. Yeah. And the majority of people in the world, they open up Google and they work out where they want to go. They come back to Google and the next place they go to is because of Google. What we're doing ultimately in many ways is unbelievable. We're saying we're going to create Google for the metaverse and you're going to be able to own it. It's not something we'll own, you'll own it. And if you've got a prime spot, sure, it might cost a little bit now, but imagine the cost of advertising that spot for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Imagine the cost of having that spot in prime location in 50 years time when the metaverse is huge, and yet you got it for a steal back now. That concept is what I think people are starting to get, and I'm seeing that in the app. People are starting to understand, my God, that really, that's huge, because you can't own an ad spot on Google.
Well, it's like, you know, us putting our comedy club right in Grand Central back in the very distant past. I've always loved SEO, and I've always been able to rank websites right at the top. And at one time I ranked #1 on Google for the term bank. Right now, had I continued that journey, I would not be sat here. I would probably be retired, right? But it's the same concept now of if I buy property in the Infiniverse as it stands now in quality locations, and it's all at the center of the map as it stands, you know, forever now. That's like being sat in Times Square.
Absolutely. And who wouldn't want to be there? I mean, that concept, I think, is something that is difficult to understand when we're still dealing with, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of people. But when you start dealing with, you know, millions or hundreds of millions of people, that starts to change. And I think that that's what we're going to be seeing over the coming, years, is a mind shift in that. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a crazy ride. The other thing that I think, us as a company are focusing very heavily on, and I think that you guys are achieving in one of the powerful new ways, is this concept of linking up the utility. I think that really, a location and a utility, that is something. I'm not going to go into more detail about that now because it's confidential, and I don't want to promise things that aren't done. We have a very good policy on that. We don't promise until we've delivered.
We're the same. We're absolutely the same as a project. And one of the key things that we're going to have to go through is, if we get 10,000 people into an event now, that's fine. It's free to attend. And then we move to people being able to access it using their jungle cats. Fine. But obviously we need to drive revenue. At the end of the day, we are a business, and where do we then, that's where I'm going to need your support and help when we move to that payment phase, is obviously facilitating it and the tech.
We need to deliver the tech. We need to make sure that users can easily access and purchase tickets, and we need to make sure that that revenue flows in a way that's exciting for everybody. And it won't be 47.5%.
Well,
we're likely to have different payment structures for different levels of comedians.
Yeah, and one of the things we're looking at is probably like monthly passes, because the individual events, if you get 10,000 people in it for free, I think I'd probably be lucky to get 100 people to pay, right? Which is it's not great. But if somebody's getting a bit of free access, and then I can buy a monthly pass, and then I could that's the sort of the Netflix model within the multiverse, is where it'll probably end up, I would imagine.
Yes, I think so. One of the conversations that we're having with Oculus is trying to work out about these subscriptions, because that is, it's a powerful tool. But at the moment, I think you can only have one.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to have different subscriptions for different things and be able to assign them dynamically to make that work properly. But there's so much of this where, the internet has proven certain things that we've not got tech for yet in the metaverse, and that'll come. But yeah. It's going to be exciting. When I think about all of this, and I think about, like you say, 2 years down the line or 5 years down the line, it's going to be a very different world that we're in. It's going to be a very exciting one, and it's going to be one where, a lot of the things that frustrate, humiliate, and embarrass us, the lack of tech, for example, maps, that's going to be gone, and it's all the visual quality of Infiniverse, which is wonderful, but lacks as much as we would like. It's great for the tech that we've got and the hardware we've got, but in 5 years' time, we're going to be dealing with a completely different set of caliber of content, and that's going to be really, really exciting. We talked about Ready Player One, and I think that's a powerful tool to look at, and I look at it every now and again to make sure that we're not deviating in entirely the wrong direction, but it's still suffers from that problem of, well, that's a really great idea, but technically it's nearly impossible to do, or it involves everybody agreeing to a standard. And EA, which is a massive games company with hundreds of games that it's launched, even there you can't transfer within the company a character from one game to another game.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to get to a point where you can transfer a character between different companies.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
That's just not, it's not, there's things like that people talk about with Web 3.0, which is utter bullshit. Not because technically it's not doable, it's very, very difficult. But more than that, you're going to have a game like, I don't know, Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't know if you played that or know about it, but or Uncharted or something like that, or Modern Warfare. And the creator of that isn't going to want to limit their character to the limitations of FIFA or NBA.
Or Minecraft.
Yeah, or Minecraft, exactly.
Of Mario Brothers cropping up in World of Warcraft.
and then we've done that. I mean, I've worked at EA where we had characters in our NBA Street 3 game that were not from our world, but were from Nintendo. And it can be done, but we had to recreate those characters for that game. We didn't have a system where we could just import them and then use them.
Yeah.
And
Imagine trying to do that across 1,000 universes. No chance.
And with the hardware increasing and the quality bar going up, and then saying, well, right, yes, 5 years later, but no, you can't have better quality characters because we've got to keep them in line with what happened in the past. I mean, there's a lot of things like that where there's a lot of bullshit talked about with Web 3.0, and there's a lot of valid points, but sifting the valid from the BS is complex. But that's also where, that's why we do the job.
Just remember at the very start of this question, which now seems about 20 minutes ago, you did say we could talk about this all day. So
yeah, I did. Yeah,
we'll draw a line under that one.
Draw a line, yeah.